So, welcome to today's episode. We're so much excited. Yet another educative and exciting episode to be here today. And karibu sana our guest. I'll give you time to introduce yourself again to our listeners and viewers. And we were delving into much to do with public finance management, public expenditure management, and any other thing that deals with the budget making process, and especially in the county government. And today we're so excited to delve into citizen responsibility and public participation in this our third episode. So karibu sana Bwana Osedo.
Thank you so much, Kili, and good morning, listeners and viewers. Another exciting episode.
Indeed.
Continue with our conversation on public participation, budget making process, and how we can create a more active and proactive citizenry. I think that's quite important. So I'm very much happy to be back again, and I hope we get to educate and inform our people so that we can make better decisions whenever we are called upon to do that.
Indeed. They say information is power, and I think it's prudent that
It's only power when it's used
prudently again.
correctly and prudently.
Exactly. That's
You can
nice.
have that information, but without putting it into proper use, just become any other conversation or any other information. So
It just becomes another piece of paper,
Exactly,
another part piece of
exactly.
information and whatnot.
Exactly.
Exactly. So in this our third episode, we want to talk extensively about the responsibilities that citizens have,
Yeah.
how they participate, and in these processes that we extensively spoke about in our previous episode, and when do these citizens again get to participate? What are the importance of participating, and what could be some legal framework or provisions that protect or govern this participation. So very quickly, take it away, sir.
Thank you, Kili. So the topic around public participation, and just by way of background, yesterday in our I think second episode, I didn't mention about the two reasons why we pride ourselves as a country to be having the one or the most progressive constitution in the world. And there are only two reasons. The rest, if you look at other things in the constitution, they are pretty similar to the other constitutions across the world. But what makes Kenya's constitution stand out are only two things, and one of them is the public participation. So if you look at the importance of public participation in our democratic and governance processes, it's quite well pronounced in our constitution, and more so in the budget making process. And just also to yesterday we delved deeper into the budget making process, where we looked at the different stages and also underscored that in all the four stages of the budgeting process, public participation is at the center of it. Because who are you making these budgets for?
Sure.
It's for the citizens. So if you're not engaging them, then how sure you that whatever documents you shall be producing as a government would speak to their needs and interest? So that's why looking at public participation as one of the gifts that we were given by our constitution, I think it's something that has not been appreciated in the country. Kili, pre-2010, before we promulgated the new constitution or the current constitution, much of the decision was being made by the government unilaterally. There was very little input from the citizens. There was very little say on how we wanted to govern ourselves. You'd realize that pre-2010, the only time we could get to interact with the government was majorly during the elections. So people would only wake up whenever the elections were called. By then, they were around December. So that's when you will see people going to exercise their rights. And then they wait for another cycle of 5 years to go and do the same. So at no point do you find the citizens engaging with whatever policies that were being made by the government. And that was a huge, huge gap. So if you look at even some of the misdeeds or the things that went wrong during the pre-2010 season, it was because the voices of the people were not involved in any of those decisions. And they say voice of the people is the voice of who? God.
God
So,
himself. Yes.
so it means that we were being governed by without the God's guidance, because the voice of people was lacking in all these decisions that were being made by the government.
And that is very interesting because there's also this, do you call it adage, that if you're not in the table,
Yes,
you're
yes, you're on
probably
the menu.
on the menu.
Yes, yeah. So
So
if you're not on
decisions
the
were
table,
made.
you'll be on the menu, and definitely, I think pre-2010 we were always in the menu, being consumed by those who are, being those who are in positions of power.
True.
So, but then when we gifted ourselves the Constitution 2010, one of the sections that was well written, and I dare say well written, was the public participation. And I've had a privilege of talking to some of the brains behind and what their thoughts were. They felt like Kenya had matured in terms of our democracy. And, we were just coming from the post-election violence and all that, the hotly contested election in 2007, 2008. So people felt like the people who were drafting, the drafters of the Constitution, felt like to safeguard our democracy, to safeguard our governance, to ensure that we put people on the table where decisions are made. And these are very critical decisions, like how our resources are utilized, was to come up with a framework to ensure there is a robust public participation in the process. So public participation, it's a way of bringing people to make for themselves decisions that would guide how we move on as a country. So from the point we vote to all the policies that we make to everything that we do as a country, there must be the voice of people, because that is the voice of God. The other thing, and talking about the beautiful part of the public participation, but on the glim side, we also need to look at how has it been since we gifted ourselves. How has the process been, the process of engaging the people, involving the people, and even informing the people about the critical decisions that the government is making on our behalf. If you look at Article 1 of the Constitution, and it's quite very clear. I know for the legal people would say your law is never clear until you interpret it. Yeah. But Article 1, even for a layman, you don't have to go to any legal school or the law school to be able to interpret that, because it says all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya, and that sovereignty shall be exercised within the confines of the Constitution.
Indeed.
Yes. So with that in mind, and looking at how we have conducted ourselves with regards to public participation, I dare say that we missed the lane. We missed the lane. Public participation currently is just a tick box exercise. It's just an exercise that is meant to fulfill the provisions of the Constitution, but does not create value that we so desired as a people when we put that particular section in our Constitution. Yeah? So it has just become an exercise that now the leaders or the people in position of power use to fulfill the provisions of the Constitution. But it is not an exercise that is meant to give the people the opportunity to articulate their issues and ensure that their issues are reflected in whatever decisions that are being made.
So it is more of a tick boxing.
Yes, it's just
kind
a
of
tick
an
box.
exercise so that
It's just because now
Formalities.
and the reason why I'm saying this,
Yes.
if you look at different, if you look at, in fact, we start with Article 1, which has, and I know we shall go into the legal framework that around public participation. But then, if you look at all the most of the articles in the Constitution, and even Article 10, which talks about the national values and principles of good governance, has placed public participation as a core value and a principle of good governance. So I cry for my country when I see a process that is marred with a lot of illegalities and seriousness. It's a process that I would say just to fulfill the requirement in the Constitution, nothing else. Our dream as a country and our dream as a people was to have a scenario where when we're making our budgets, now driving it home to the topic of discussion. Now, when we're making our budgets, and we know that the budget process starts on the 1st of July and ends in 30th of June, that is the financial year.
Yes.
So all the 8 or so documents that we are publishing as a government, or the government is publishing on behalf of the people, should have the interest and the needs of people in them. For example, when we are developing our CIDP, which is the County Integrated Development Plan, which is a 5-year plan outlining the program, the development priorities for the county, you'd expect that the county or the government would go outside there and ask the people before they develop anything. You'd ask the people, now that you elected us, you entrusted us with the leadership of this particular county. What development programs would you wish to see us implement on your behalf? They're not doing it for themselves.
But they had the manifesto.
Yes, the manifesto, which we voted because we loved their manifesto. Exactly. You understand?
Yes.
But now for the precise programs, we need to be asked, for this particular period of time, the 5 years that we shall be in office as a government, what would you wish to see us implement? I would really love to see such, but do we see such happening in the country? No.
I fear not.
No. It doesn't happen that way.
Even the manifesto itself, there is nowhere that it is, it's a contract or something that you can come and say, you're charging this person for not doing what they promised to do. True.
And you see, that's a huge gap. Because development for any country is for the benefit of the people, not for the benefit of the government. Government is just to facilitate the process. But the ultimate beneficiary of any development is the people. So be it in health, be it in education, be it in water, it's for the benefit of the people. And it is the people who should determine where or which areas they would want to see first developed before we move to the others. So it means that the priority should come from who?
The people.
The people. But is that the case in the country? No. Secondly, if you look at now how the process has been conducted, and looking at some of the gaps, one, we know that there are some counties that have gone even further to develop their own public participation legislations and policies.
Domestication of the national.
Yes. So they have come up with their own public participation policy and laws that govern how they conduct the process. Very well. For example, a county like Nairobi, I know about 2015, 2016, they were amongst the first counties that developed their public participation bills, and then it was passed into an act of the county assembly. Yeah. And if you look at that document, it's quite robust in how the country should conduct the process. But if you go to the process itself, how it's the actual process, you would even wonder, why do we need the law in the first place? Why do we need that particular act if the people who passed it cannot adhere to it? Yeah. So if you talk about the issues of inclusivity, you talk about issues of meaningful public participation, and I would come to that term meaningful, because what we've seen is just a tokenistic kind of engagement where you are called upon to participate publicly. It's not a public participation. You are called upon to participate publicly. So somebody can take a photo and say, I had a very, very good public participation, but how good was it?
You are in attendance.
Yes, you are just attending.
Actually.
It's just like me going to any marketplace and watching how people come and buy and go. It's the same thing, because I have no contribution into the process, or just going to a football match and shouting on top of my voice, but I do not have any influence on the outcome of the scores down on the ground. You understand?
Yes.
So that's what we are seeing. But is that what we envisioned in our constitution? No. So again, I mentioned the word meaningful.
Yes.
And if you look at the word meaningful public participation, I don't know how people would want to define it, but me, I want to define it in only 3 ways. One is when before you are invited to go and attend a public participation or to participate in a public participation forum, do you already have the information and the information about what is going to be discussed?
Yeah.
So that takes us back to the issue of civic education. How well informed are our people to engage in these processes? You understand?
That's another elephant.
Yes, it's another elephant in the room. Because, for example, if you look at a document like the CFSP, very technical, with very big words, financial terms. So you want to tell somebody who has not been well sensitized to go and give his views in a document of that sort. And that is not true. That's not even the issue of civic education. Is not even the big issue now. The other issue is, do you have access to these documents before they are presented for public participation? And how much time are you given as a citizen to be able to participate in these forums, or before you participate? So, for example, in Nairobi, the Public Participation Act demands that there should be a 14-day notice. And within these 14 days, you as a citizen of this great county, you should be having this document at hand. And we would expect that you shall have gone through it, identified your areas of interest, and made comments. So that when you go there, you are going to enrich the conversation, not just to go sign up the signing sheets or the attendance sheets and leave. You understand?
Yes.
So that for me would be another way of defining the meaningful public participation. So do we have the document? How accessible are these budget documents?
Even in what language?
In what language and form are they presented to the people?
Sure, yes.
Before we can say now we had a public participation on CFSP, CBROP, or any other of this budget document.
Yes.
Then the other thing that how I would also look at public participation is the inclusivity aspect.
Yes.
You know, we are not dealing with the homogeneous population. We have population that is hugely composed of the youth. And youth here, we're not just talking about the youth. You know, again, when you talk about the youth factor, youth can also be categorized into different groups. Now we're talking about Gen Alpha, Gen Z, Gen what, you know?
The millennials.
So, yes, all of that. So have we come up with a strategy to reach all these people if it's about the youth? We're talking about women, and not just women. We have older women, we have young women, we have mothers, we have lactating mothers.
Sure.
Yeah? You understand?
Yeah.
So how are we ensuring that there's inclusivity in our processes? That's another big question. Then we also need to look at now the issue of PWDs.
Persons with disabilities.
You know, when you talk about PWD, somebody would just imagine that somebody maybe with a physical disability, that's the only PWD they know.
Yes.
But you have a blind person, you have a deaf, you have somebody with you have different people
Forms.
categories or forms of disability.
Yes.
So for the visually impaired, have we enabled them to access this document in a readable format for them, the brailles?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
Is that happening in the country? I dare say no. It doesn't happen that way. Then if you look at now people with the physical disability or immobility, the people who are not with the mobility challenges, you find, for example, there's a public participation in a particular county on a very important document, and then the process or the event is happening on the fourth floor of a building without lifts, without any kind of
Ramps.
Yes. So how do you expect people with mobility challenges to access?
True.
So, I've had this notion, or I've had this notion from different people saying, oh, disability. So our program is very inclusive. We ensure that there is disability participation. But how inclusive is it? Yes. What was the composition of those disability groups? Sure. If we talked about the youth, are you able to say now all the different youth groups are represented? If you talk about women, are they all represented? And there's also a very critical population being forgotten. We are the old.
The elderly.
The elderlies, yes? So how are we taking care of them? Are we, aren't they part of our country? They are. They are part of our citizenry. So how are you ensuring that they are also part of these processes? So for me...
sorry to cut you short. I also think when it comes to inclusivity, there is one constituent of people that they've been left out in terms of the location of these forums.
Yes.
In the sense that when the forum is placed at a far or at centralized location, so it then translates to not making these people who would have wished to attend to make the attendance because of the fares, the distances involved, and all that mobility issues. So it's one part I think that people do not look at it much. They don't give much attention to the location.
Kelly, in my forums, I normally ask people, so how do you define devolution?
Yes.
What does devolution mean to you?
Bringing resources back or down to the people. Down
to the people. So when you are a county and you are still centralized, what does that mean? You're killing the devolution yourself. You're not living the spirit of devolution. Because in devolution, I would expect that these processes, there are some countries that have gone administratively up to the Nyumba Kumi level. Yeah. So I would expect that the conversation start at that Nyumba Kumi. I don't have to walk 3 kilometers to attend a public participation, because the law requires that the government should facilitate public participation. So meaning there should be people coming down to our Nyumba Kumi meeting to sensitize us and collect our views on a particular decision that they want to make as a government. But if that is not happening, then you're still centralized in a devolved system of government. And I think that's what is happening, because situations where public participation happens in the sub-county, at least in the sub-county level. But you see, there are some vast counties like, for example, Turkana or Kakamega, like Kajiado, they are so big. Kajiado.
Sure.
Yeah, they are so big. So moving from your home to the sub-county headquarters will take you like 3 hours. You understand?
Sure.
And it's a lot of cost in terms of fare and all this.
The instances that one person has to go to another county, to come to access, location.
the location of that public participation.
Yeah.
So I think in the spirit of devolution, all these processes needs to be decentralized. We need to have public participation happening at the convenience of the people, because you are going to make these decisions on behalf of the people. It's not on your behalf as the government.
So, Talking of which, whose responsibility is it to conduct this public participation? I think it's good to define that.
So the responsibility to conduct or to facilitate public participation lies squarely with the government because they are the originators of these policies. But the policies are not to govern them. It's not for them. They're just implementing on our behalf. These are our policies.
Sure.
So because we've entrusted them with the positions of leadership, now they need to facilitate public participation. Okay?
Yes.
So at no point should we hear of a county saying they do not have resources to facilitate public participation. For me, that's neither here nor there. Because how? It's the most fundamental exercise that any county should be involved in. Yeah. Before you drill those boreholes, have you talked to the people? Is that their priority? I need to set my priority right for you to implement. But if you come telling, quickly, I've always said that what we are seeing is a big joke. There was a time I was doing some work in the community, and so we went to a location, a place, and we were assessing some projects.
Yeah.
So we realized that the government, in their wisdom or lack of it, which I think the latter is true, decided to construct or establish a health center in a place that is 10 kilometers away from the nearest homestead. So we asked ourselves, okay, so 10 kilometers away, who do you expect to use this particular facility? Yes, it was beautifully done. Everything was okay. But 10 kilometers, so people have to travel. And you see, it's not like they have a speed, an electric train or an airplane or the drones or whatever that would ease the movement. The roads are pathetic. In fact, it would take you hours to cover those 10 kilometers. And then now you have a very beautiful facility lying there. So then I asked myself, were the people of this region really engaged? Or it was just somebody, because of our corrupt nature as a country, decided that now because we have some funds and we want to look as if we are doing something, there's being busy and being productive. Our government is always very busy, very, very busy. So they decided, because now they want to look busy in the eyes of the citizens, now they constructed and established this health center. But is it serving the people? Is there value for money?
Not at all.
So the responsibility squarely lies with the government. And the government has the sole mandate to facilitate public participation. And the public participation should be conducted in a process that benefits the people. It should be a process that takes the priorities, the needs, and the interest of the people before they put their interests of government in play. Indeed. So with that, I can comfortably say in such sessions that, in the country we are seeing or we are conducting meaningful public participation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what... in the same spirit, what would be the purpose of this public participation? I mean, in the spirit of now the Constitution and all that, what would be some of the purposes or the need or the importance of this?
So the importance of public participation can never be overstated. I think looking at the Constitution, the PFM Act, the County Government Act, and all of these legislations, very beautiful policies that we have in place, they have all underscored the centrality and the importance of public participation. One is to collect views from the people. Yeah, you are conducting a public participation to get feedback from the people on whatever proposals that you have as a government. Uh-huh. Two is to inform the people that, hey, now these are our intentions. Like as a government, we intend to do A, B, C, D. Okay?
Yes.
Three is to engage. I need to know what is happening. You engage the people. Yeah?
Yes.
You need to tell me that now, as a government, we have received some funds from whatever sources, and we are planning to construct a dam in your area because of to address water issues. I need to be engaged. I need to know who is the tender, who is the contractor, how much is the budget, how long is the project going to take. And how many how many people is it going to benefit, and for how long? You know, so all these, by me being, one thing that we've not appreciated clearly as a people or as a country is that we are governing ourselves through the constitution.
Yeah.
You know, so the people we've elected, it's not, not all of us, the 50 plus million Kenyans can sit as the president. So we have to choose or to elect our president, a representative.
Yes.
But this person is representing us, not his interest. So one thing that we've not appreciated is that we are governing ourselves through the people that we've elected.
Indeed.
You know?
Yes.
So with that realization, or with that kind of mentality, it would be easier to even actively ask that, hey, for this project, how much have you allocated for it? Is it for the interest of the people? Like you need to it's like you are in your house and you're seeing a new fridge, you're seeing like unashtukia vitu zinafanyika.
Yes.
Like you just wake up one morning and you find there's a new chair there, there's a new fridge there, there's a new cooker there, and then and then you want to claim that you're the owner of the house. How? Nauna stima. And then even going outside there to tell people, I'm the head of the house, or this is my house. It will be okay, a house. How much was that chair?
Yeah.
I would ask you. So that's the same question that we need to ask the citizens. How much was the expressway?
Yes.
Tulishtukia tu tumepata expressway imejengwa. So how many Kenyans know how much was spent on the expressway, because that was taxpayers' money? How much was the SGR? It's like in your house, we unashtukia tu kuna dispenser mpya. So are you really in charge of your welfare and what is happening in the country or in your house? That's the challenge. So yes. I think until the people appreciate that, we'd still be going around to discuss all this. But I would want to see a very proactive citizenry. I would want to see citizens who are willing to engage meaningfully. And if diplomacy fails, we also have provisions in the constitution to compel them to align with what has been provided for.
Indeed.
Yes. So I think just to summarize.
Yes.
I think the importance of public participation is well outlined in our constitution. And even the conduct of public participation is also well outlined in our constitution, in our PFM Act, in our County Government Act, and other supporting legislations.
Yes.
So the responsibility, I must say this, is with the government. The responsibility lies with the government. That cannot be overstated. So what we need to see is a more proactive citizens and a government that is so responsive to the citizens. These are two things.
Yes.
You might have a very proactive citizen, but a very responsive government. So government that is not willing to listen, but we know how to make them listen. And I think going forward, I would say that, as a country, we need to rise above the occasion and ensure that the government is working for us. It's our government. We are the people who put them in office to represent us, not to represent their interests. So I think I would stop there for now. But then this is a very interesting conversation, and public participation is one of the ways we can get things right as a country. Thank you.
Indeed, it's very, very interactive. It's one of the exciting topics, I think, and we've gone on and on and on.
Yes.
I think in our next episode, we'll be doing, we'll look at what the legal provisions in specific or in detail, and specifically now maybe check on the responsibility of citizens, because we've delved so much into the responsibility of the government and how this public participation should be. So thank you very much.
Thank
See
you
in a few.
Thank you. How was that?